Last night, the U.S. women's national team defeated Canada 2-0 in the She Believes Cup. But the biggest headline from the night was the message the Canadian team sent, protesting their unequal treatment by their National Soccer Federation. Now, on the surface, it seems to be similar to what our national team was able to achieve, but that might not be the case. Joining us now is former Canadian national team player and member of Canada's Soccer Hall of Fame, Amy Walsh. Now, Amy, our U.S. women's team, it took them 6 years to come to a settlement with our U.S. Soccer Federation. So can you give us a quick overview of everything that is going on for you guys' national team and exactly what are they exactly fighting for?
Yeah, well, I think in the way it's been publicized and the way it's been disseminated through the media, it's boiled down almost unfairly to a battle about equal pay. And so we very well know, as you just alluded to, that the women were in a 6-year-long fight and in the courts for suing their own federation for institutionalized gender discrimination, which they've lost, but they went on to win the fight for equal pay. But I think what's being lost here is the simple demands of this team. And they've been very patient because these are issues that I was reckoning with as a player rep during my career, which spanned 1998 to 2009. So they're still fighting the same battles. So it's very, very frustrating. But I think what it boils down to, it's not just about compensation. It's about equity. So it's not just the simple equal pay. It's about what are the standards of treatment for these women in terms of the resources that they're allocated, their day-to-day, and what they're getting in their World Cup year as compared to the men last year when they went to Qatar. That's all that they're simply asking for, and they're asking for a little bit of transparency as to why the Federation is suddenly sort of ripping the carpet out from underneath them 5 months from their own World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, which starts on July 20th.
So what would you say is the major difference between what the U.S. women's team protested and fought for in terms of equality versus Canada's situation? Or is there a difference?
No, I don't think at its root that there's a whole lot of difference there. I think that when you're comparing Canada to the U.S., and again, to go back to my own career, we always were very careful to not compare ourselves to the U.S. because the U.S. always has more funding, more resources than we had. But again, at its root, it's about equal treatment and sort of what these women are worth and their issues of governance and how our National Sports Federation, an organization which is a nonprofit, and it takes, kids who are signing up to play soccer, their player fees go to Canada Soccer. And so it's about what's happening at the books. Where are these numbers? The players just want to see these numbers. So it's about governance, but it's also about equitable treatment. And so the fight is very, very similar. And there's certainly a lot of lessons can be gleaned for these Canadian girls from the American women. And it was a great show of solidarity yesterday at the center of the pitch before the game started.
Yeah, they definitely come together. I mean, enough is enough when it comes to both the U.S. women and the Canadian women. And what you all have been working your bleeps off for, in terms of being professional athletes. I'm sorry, I'm very passionate, when it comes to this. So you mentioned 5 months away from the Women's World Cup. What would you say, or what do you feel would be fair, and what do you think could be an achievable conclusion that would make both sides or both parties happy?
Well, I think it's to put in stopgaps and figure out how they can get funding to push through. If these situations were reversed, if the cycles were different, if the women had just finished a World Cup this past fall leading into the holidays, and then the men's team found themselves 5 months away from a World Cup, this would never be happening. So I think the women for so long have been treated like second-class citizens, and all they want is equitable treatment from their own federation. So it's a very, very frustrating fight, but there are, there's financial impropriety. There's incompetence for years and years and years that's been happening. And as I said, organization irregularities and a lack of transparency across the board. So where do you get that money? Where does it come from? I'm not sure. But certainly if the situation was reversed, if it was the men who found themselves in a situation, they would have been able to push through to the World Cup. So it's absolutely unacceptable that it's happening to our gold medal winning national team. They're Olympic champions, and this is how they're being treated.
Yeah, when you're talking gold medals and winning, the money should be there. In fact, no, the money better be there. Amy, thanks you for joining us.
My pleasure.